Welcome back, Truth Seekers. I'm your host, Josh, and this is the Truth Seekers Podcast, where we dig deep, ask the hard questions, and uncover the mysteries hidden in history, mythology, and scripture. And speaking of all that, today we're cracking into one of mythology's most iconic monsters, Medusa. Now, most people think they know Medusa's story, a beautiful woman cursed by Athena, turned into a snake-haired monster whose gaze turned men into stone. But what if I told you that's a lie? Yeah, you heard me. This wasn't some random Greek tragedy. Medusa's origins are far older and far more sinister. Her story is a distorted echo of something real. Something that ties directly to Genesis 6, the Nephilim, and the fallen angel rebellion. So buckle up, because today we're unveiling Medusa's true story and her true identity as a possible Nephilim hybrid, a relic of the fallen Watchers and their unholy offspring. So, are you ready? Let's dive in. Alright, so let's start with something the movies and pop culture conveniently got wrong. Medusa was never human. You heard me. She was never human to begin with. Her real parents, according to the oldest Greek text, were Phyros and Sero, two primordial serpents. Phyros, an ancient sea god, often depicted as part serpent, part monster, representing chaos and destruction. Sero, her name literally means sea monster, and she birthed some of the most terrifying creatures in Greek mythology. Some of those creatures were the Gorgons, which were Medusa and her sisters, the Greys, which we're going to dig into in a future episode, were creepy gray witches, and Chenda, the mother of all monsters, and Landon, the dragon guarding the golden apples. So, that being said, doesn't this all sound familiar? Doesn't this all sound like it's pushing kind of a close narrative? I just can't put my finger on it. What is it? That's right. Because in the Bible, we have similar chaos creatures. Leviathan, Job 41, Psalm 74:14, Isaiah 27:1. The Leviathan was a sea creature, often depicted as a dragon of destruction, described as God's enemy. Then you have another one, which is Rahab, another sea monster tied to the divine rebellion. You see Rahab in Isaiah 51:9 through 10, and in Job 26:12. So, the real question is this: are we looking at the same beings, just under a different name? Were Phyros and Sero fallen entities, part of the same rebellion against God? Because if so, Medusa wasn't just a random monster. She was born from the bloodline of the fallen. Now, let's talk about Medusa's best feature: her hair, or lack thereof. I mean, what do you call snakes for hair? Anyways, let's talk about Medusa's snakes, because this is where things get really interesting. In the Bible, the serpent is never just an animal. It's a symbol of deception, corruption, and fallen power. Genesis 3, the serpent deceives Eve, bringing sin into the world. In Revelation 12, verse 9, Satan literally is called the ancient serpent, directly linking him to the fall of humanity. Then you have Numbers 21, 6 through 9. The fiery serpents are sent as judgment upon Israel, similar to Medusa's petrifying gaze, which brings death. See, when the Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years, God sent fiery serpents that would bite them. And these serpents would bring death unless they stared upon the cross or gold serpent that was upon a stake, it would bring away the death. But anyways, back to the subject. What if Medusa's snakes weren't a curse, but a revelation of her true Nephilim nature? Think about it. Genesis 6 tells us the Watchers, fallen angels, took wives and created the Nephilim, hybrid offspring of divine corruption. Medusa's serpent head could be a distorted memory of what these hybrids really look like, being altered and corrupted, feared by all humans. And her stone-turning gaze, that could represent the spiritual paralysis, demonic oppression, or even the way that fallen beings struck fear into humanity. Alright, so how does Medusa's death tie to all this? Well, let's go straight to Genesis 6 and the book of Enoch. The Nephilim were the offspring of fallen angels and humans, giant warriors and rulers of renown. God wiped them out in the flood. But according to 1 Enoch 15, 8 through 12, their spirits remained as unclean spirits, demons. Now check this out. Medusa was beheaded by Perseus. But here's where it gets crazy. Even after her body was destroyed, her head still retained supernatural power. Does that not sound familiar? Because according to Jubilees 5, 1 through 11, after the Nephilim were physically destroyed, their spirits continued to influence the world as demons. Medusa's severed head is a direct parallel. Her body is gone, but her power lingers. Was her beheading actually a symbolic memory of divine judgment on the Nephilim? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you have anything that you want to investigate, anything, drop in the comments and we'll look into it. Now, here's a plot twist. Everyone assumes that Athena was a hero for cursing Medusa. But what if I told you she was just another watcher figure, manipulating the whole situation? See, she was called the goddess of wisdom. But in 1 Enoch 8, it was the Watchers who gave forbidden knowledge to humanity. Her armor and shield was decorated with snakes. Why would she carry the same symbols as Medusa? Was her so-called curse really divine justice? Or was it just another fallen entity pushing their weight around? If Athena was just another fallen being, then Medusa's curse was a cover-up. A way to erase the truth of what she really was. See, she was never human. Her parents were serpent deities, possibly fallen entities. Her snake-covered head aligns with biblical symbols of deception, corruption, and fallen power. Her death mirrors the judgment of the Nephilim. Their bodies destroyed, but their influence still stayed. So, what was Medusa really? A. Nephilim hybrid, doomed from the start. B. A Watcher experiment, gone wrong. Or C. A spiritual warning about demonic deception. Let me know what you think in the comments. One thing is clear. Her story is not just mythology. It's a distorted memory of the real spiritual battle that happened long before the flood. One that's been raging since way before Genesis 6. Next time, we're going to dig in more to the Nephilim and the monster myth agenda. In our next episode, we're going to be breaking down another legendary creature, Cyclops, Mentors, and more. Were they just fantasy, or were they based on something real? Nephilim hybrids. You don't want to miss this one. And as always, I ask you to like, follow, and share. Because I know this sounds fun and all, but deception is on the rise. And sometimes, people even fall for the myths of legend. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, And as always, stay truthful.